talk about pump failures, 480s, converter installation. Specifically on the 480, but it applies to all GM rear-wheel drive automatics. One of the problems we see fairly often from customers is pump failure caused by improper converter installation. This is obvious when we get a transmission back because the rear pump half, the inner gear, and only the inner gear, has ground into the pump, as you can see here. That's caused by this gear not being properly engaged on the converter drive. Right here, these flats and these flats on the pump gear have to be properly engaged, completely engaged, and the proper pull out on the converter to prevent it pushing this gear into the rear pump. This can be avoided by properly measuring the converter installation in the transmission. We do that when you install a converter. It can be a little tougher on the 480 because of the O-ring on the input shaft. What we recommend here is using a little bit of ATF or assembly lube on the O-ring and possibly the input shaft splines. Always lube the impeller hub on the converter to prevent damage to the seal. Hold the converter straight, again to prevent damage to the seal. And get it started on the input shaft. And turn and push inward until it locks in. There's a myth that floats around that 3 clicks and it's all the way in. That's not true. The only proper way to ensure this is all the way in is to measure it. Not some internet lore that tells you that 3 clunks and it's good. There's another one. It's pretty close. You can kind of eyeball the distance from here to there. It's got to go in an inch. Anything less than that and you will damage the pump, possibly the converter. When the pump is damaged on one of our units, it gets back here for repair. A replacement pump is $200, freshen up charge is $1,250, and a converter cut and clean is $150, plus shipping both ways. It's a pretty expensive mistake to make on an otherwise good transmission and converter. You may have to rock the converter back and forth, in and out. You don't want to get terribly rough with it. No need for a big hammer, but it's okay to slightly bump the converter and work with it. When you think it's in far enough, note we have 2 clicks right now, so you straight edge across the bell housing, and you want to measure to the converter pad from the straight edge. Right now, this one shows to be right at an inch. So that should be good on the installation. It only clicked twice. So the 3 clunks is not accurate. Sometimes it'll make 4. Just depends on how easy it goes into the pump gears, how easy it goes onto the stator shaft and the input shaft splines. Once that's measured, you want to install this transmission to the engine, and before you do that, really before you install this converter in the transmission, you should check it against the flex plate. You should check to make sure this pilot's in the back of the crankshaft. When this is mated to the flex plate, this needs to be in the crankshaft at least 1/8 of an inch. There's 2 different length pilots on common GM deals. The old school small block, big block Chevy uses a short pilot. LT1 motors use a short pilot. LS style engines use a long pilot unless they have a flex plate, the flat flex plate and adapter like the trucks use. If you have a short pilot on an LS motor and you need a long pilot, there are adapters that are made to make that happen without sending a converter back. So that gets the converter in the transmission. Transmission goes up in the vehicle. Then you need to measure the gap between the flex plate and the converter mounting pads using feeler gauges or a drill bit to ensure you have approximately 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch clearance.